Now, to really get this story, we got to start with a core philosophy from Uncle Marco Vance. He says, a person without a past is like a ship without a logbook. Think about that. To a maritime shipping family like the Vances, a missing past isn't just some quirky, mysterious character trait. It is the ultimate red flag. It implies the vessel was either stolen or it was used for smuggling. When someone just drops out of the sky without any roots, aunts, cousins, or history, this family doesn't see a clean slate. They see an equation that just doesn't balance.
So, Section 1, Iron and Diesel Money.
To understand this family, we really need to wrap our heads around the specific, heavy weight of the Julian Vance family name and what iron and diesel money actually means. See, they aren't old money with generational trust funds, and they definitely aren't flashy new money from a tech buyout. They move 3% of the dry bulk freight on the entire eastern seaboard. So they possess immense logistical wealth, but they still keep steel-toed Red Wing boots in the trunks of their custom-tailored Mercedes just in case a line snaps down at the port. Dinner at the Vance house? It's mandatory, it's loud, and it smells aggressively of roasted garlic. They don't really do personal boundaries. They operate with this fierce collective perimeter.
Moving on to Section 2, the perfect facade. Enter Clara DuPont. She's an architectural consultant who just kind of drifts into this loud, chaotic family looking like a flawless, completely different species. The contrast here is stark. On one side, you have the Vances, shouting across the terrace, slamming hands on the table, drinking Chianti. And on the other side, you have Clara. She lives in a minimalist limestone brownstone over in Brooklyn Heights. She speaks in whispers. She maintains this terrifyingly flawless emotional equilibrium. To Julian, who spends his days surrounded by the constant thrumming anxiety of the commercial docks, Clara's quiet scent of sandalwood and rain just feels like an escape. She doesn't have tells, and she never ever looks away when she's cornered.
What's absolutely mind-blowing here is the sheer scale of the structural lies Clara built to hide her past. She told Julian her parents were highly unstable, severe corporate consultants who basically used their wealth as a psychological leash. Because of this alleged abuse, she claimed total estrangement, saying she even changed her surname to DuPont just to escape their relentless control. And she delivered this story with such cool, clinical detachment that Julian completely believed her. It triggered his defensive protective instincts, which effectively slammed the door shut on any further questions about where she came from.
Which brings us to Section 3, a missing logbook.
So the wedding is fast approaching, right? And the silence around Claire's lineage starts humming like a bad ground wire. It really makes you ask, what actually happens when the equation doesn't balance? Because the Vances are structured as a family trust, right? And a major lease expansion for the docks suddenly requires a secondary guarantor signature. Since Julian and Clara are merging assets before they tie the knot, the Maritime Authority mandates Clara's full financial disclosure and state-issued ID. Yep, a simple, routine risk assessment is about to collide head-on with a meticulously crafted lie.
Well, during this audit, the company notary catches a literally breathtaking discrepancy. The digital footprint and the architectural design firm are indeed registered to Clara DuPont, but her legal, active tax identity, the one tied directly to her social security number, is Clarissa May Henderson. The comprehensive background check doesn't show New Haven or Chicago, these elite cities she casually dropped into conversations. Nope, it shows a single recurring address for the first 24 years of her life, 1422 Sycamore Court, Toledo, Ohio, with a perfect credit score of 812.
All right, Section 4, the road to Toledo.
Now, Julian doesn't react with explosive rage. Not at all. Instead, he goes full corporate calculation. He gets in his car and drives 8 hours straight to Ohio to do a literal property walkthrough of Clara's past. But when he pulls up in Toledo, he doesn't find those cold, wealthy corporate abusers Clara described. He finds Gary Henderson, a retired machinist who worked 31 years at a car plant and broke his collarbone twice on the assembly line. And he finds Martha Henderson, a former pharmacy tech. They live in this modest, pale yellow ranch house that is essentially a museum of framed photographs of Clarissa. They're just ordinary, hard-working people who gave absolutely everything they had to their daughter.
You really have to absorb the heartbreak here when Gary explains what happened. 2 years prior, Clara demanded $80,000 to secure a prestigious partnership lease in Brooklyn. Guys, that was more than half of her parents' entire retirement savings. Gary offered her $15,000 in cash, explaining it was literally all they could afford to lose. In response, she looked at him and said, "If you can't invest in my future, Gary, you're just a liability to my present." She then blocked their numbers, changed her name, and filed legal intent to abandon her family. She erased them entirely, just for the crime of being middle class.
This sets up Section 5, the setup. What follows is just a total masterclass in tactical coordination. Let's walk through how this unravels. While Julian is still sitting in that pale yellow house in Ohio on Friday, Clara texts him a lie, claiming her parents are flying in from Chicago for a celebratory lunch. By Monday, Julian tracks down the people Clara is actually planning to bring to this lunch. And they aren't paid actors. They're Robert and Vivian Callahan, these elite high-net-worth clients from Manhattan. Clara had manipulated them into playing her honorary mentors by claiming her real parents died in a tragic car accident, even weaponizing the memory of Vivian's own deceased daughter to get their sympathy. Wow. When Julian quietly shows Robert the actual truth, the trap is fully set for Saturday.
And finally, Section 6, burning the timber. We finally arrive at the climactic Saturday night dinner. It's shifted at the very last minute to a private, lockdown room at the Vance family's restaurant, Il Nido, over in New Jersey. To understand what's about to happen, you have to hear Julian's father, Arthur Vance's philosophy on structural integrity. He says, if a man buys a bad piece of timber, he doesn't patch it with wood putty. He burns it in the yard so it doesn't rot the rest of the house. The Vances? They aren't going to just break off this engagement quietly over a quick phone call. No way. They are going to publicly dismantle the deception so the structural integrity of their family remains completely intact.
Okay, let's watch this trap actually snap shut. Clara walks in, projecting her flawless old money aesthetic, fully expecting to just play her part for the evening. But instead, the elite Robert Callahan looks at her and coldly addresses her by her real name, Clarissa. Before she can even start to recover from that, Julian reveals that he just drove back from Toledo and met the parents she claimed were abusive monsters. And then, the heavy double doors open. Gary and Martha Henderson walk into the room. Clara's meticulously curated facade completely shatters into 1,000 jagged pieces right then and there.
The fallout, oh, it is absolute. The wealthy Callahans walk out in utter disgust at being manipulated like that. Julian's mother, Francesca Vance, a woman who values fierce loyalty above absolutely everything else, completely ignores Clara. Instead, she fiercely embraces Martha Henderson, welcoming this devastated mother right into their tribe. Julian, his family, and the Hendersons all walk out together to share a warm meal downstairs. Clara is left completely abandoned in the empty private room with nothing but her 3-carat diamond ring sitting uselessly on the table. It really leaves you wondering, when you build an entire life on hollow ground, changing your voice, your name, and erasing the hardworking people who sacrificed everything for you, what is actually left when the audit finally comes? Clara wanted something beautiful, but it's a stark reminder to all of us that no matter how flawless the facade is, if it lacks true roots, it simply won't stand up in a hurricane. I really hope this breakdown of the anatomy of deception leaves you thinking about the real value of your own authenticity, your roots, and your structural integrity. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.